I am very glad to have you all back to Breaking the Chains, Healing from Emotional and Physical Abuse podcast. Again, I am your host, Kelly. This is the final announcement about us closing our merchandise store in a few more weeks, for we are not selling many items to keep the merchandise store open. Please feel free to buy an item or items from our merchandise store before it closes. Also, donations help my podcast to grow and generate more fluently. This is Season 10, Episode 1. Again, I want this to be a community of victims and survivors of domestic violence who share his or her pain. And please feel free to comment so we can go through the healing process together. Or if you've been through the healing process from domestic violence, please feel free. Let me restart that. Please feel free to comment if you have healed from the abuse from domestic violence. So the question is, what is the difference between an abusive relationship versus a loving relationship? So the title of this episode is called An Abusive Relationship versus a Loving Relationship. So I'm going to state the definition of domestic violence and the different kind of abuse, but it will be brief because that describes an abusive relationship. Because you can, please feel free to go back in previous episodes, and as I go into more detail about physical abuse, emotional abuse, and I'm going to touch on, in this episode, I'm going to touch on sexual abuse. So again, the title of this episode is called An Abusive Relationship versus a Loving Relationship. So, the definition of domestic violence is a pattern of abusive actions in a relationship that is used to maintain power and control over his or her partner. Physical abuse is an intentional act causing physical injury or physical trauma to his or her partner. Emotional abuse is a pattern of behaviors in which the abuser degrades their victim, humiliates, and the abuser usually instills fear in their victim to maintain power and control over his or her partner. An abusive relationship consists of domestic violence, which involves physical abuse, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, isolation, and many more signs of an abusive relationship. I haven't discussed sexual abuse in previous episodes, so I'm going to dive into the definition of sexual abuse and the signs of sexual abuse. Sexual abuse, the definition is, it involves non-consensual sexual contact or non-consensual sexual conduct. The 6 signs of sexual abuse is 1. Rape, 2. Indecent exposure, 3. Sexual harassment, 4. Inappropriate touching, 5. Sexual pornography or force to watch sexual pornography, 6. Sexual teasing. Sexual abuse means don't consent. Any sexual act without clear, voluntary agreement from both parties. Sexual abuse also means forceful acts. He or she uses strength, weapons, threats of violence or injury to force you to have sexual intercourse. So here's the definition of non-consensual. Forcing a man or woman to have sex with him or her. Here is incapacitated to consent. Having sexual intercourse with a man or woman who is mentally incapacitated, unconscious, or physically disabled. Sexual abuse should be taken very seriously, so you should contact your law enforcement immediately. Confide with a trusted family member or a trusted friend. Abusive relationships are steadily increasing in the United States. The way to decrease the rates of abusive relationships in the U.S. is to make victims aware of the red flags in an abusive relationship. Also, abusers must be held accountable for their abusive behaviors. Your partner may not show signs of his or her abusive actions every day. However, it will only take minutes, hours, days, weeks, or months before their abusive behaviors return. What are the signs of an abusive relationship? 1. Physical abuse. 2. Emotional abuse. 3. Sexual abuse. 4. Financial abuse. 5. He or she utilizes the blame shifting tactic. 6. Your partner is very controlling. 7. He or she is extremely manipulative, which means he or she uses manipulation constantly. 8. You're consistently walking on eggshells. 9. Your partner is very jealous of every family member, friend, or every coworker. 10. He or she never communicates respectfully. 11. Your partner never shows empathy. 12. You lost your self-identity. 13. He or she gaslights you constantly. 14. Your partner interrupts every conversation. So that's the signs of an abusive relationship. If you know without a doubt that your partner is showing most signs that I stated about an abusive relationship, you are experiencing an abusive relationship. The reason a majority of victims stay in the abusive relationships is because he or she is stuck in survival mode. So the definition of survival mode means the victim's nervous system is always on high alert. The victim of an abusive relationship is focused on minimizing the physical or emotional abuse. The victim of an abusive relationship becomes emotionally numb. Also, the victim of an abusive relationship stays with his or her abuser because of trauma bonding. So the definition of trauma bonding is when a victim of an abusive relationship feels attached to his or her abuser, for he or she has feelings of love, compassion, and also confusion. Trauma bonding is why it is very difficult for victims of abusive relationships to leave their abusers. Trauma bonding thrives on confusion, which brings forth several mental health issues for victims of abusive relationships, such as anxiety, PTSD, which is post-traumatic stress disorder, and depression. Being in an abusive relationship, he or she will constantly disrespect you. He or she will cause you to lose your self-identity. When you are in an abusive relationship, you all's home becomes a battlefield. If you all's home isn't a sanctuary, there is no place for recovery in a relationship. So now I'm going to discuss a loving relationship. So a loving relationship is a relationship with mutual respect. You trust each other, not controlling. There's no manipulation, non-judgmental, unconditional love, and you both are on the same team during a loving relationship. For he or she always makes you feel safe. A loving relationship also consists of growth, commitment, and empathy. A loving relationship, each partner supports each other. So here's the aspects of a loving relationship. 1, it's a partnership. Each person works very well together as a team, and you both are sharing life's journey. 2, commitment and loyalty. Choosing to stay with your partner through life's disappointments. 3, trust and honesty. You are completely honest with your partner always. Your partner is reliable when a devastating situation occurs in your life. 4, emotionally connected. You understand your partner completely. You both have a deep emotional connection. 5, growth. Each partner encourages each other's personal growth, and each of you bring out the best in each other. So that's the 5 aspects of a loving relationship. In conclusion, abusive relationships consist of physical, emotional abuse, sexual abuse, financial abuse, isolation, blame shifting, extremely controlling, consistent manipulation, constantly walking on eggshells, jealousy, and gaslighting. During an abusive relationship, your partner constantly disrespects you. Therefore, you lose your self-identity. He or she never communicates respectfully with you. Hold on, I need a drink. Your partner consistently interrupts every conversation with you. There are 2 major reasons a man or woman remains in an abusive relationship. You remain in an abusive relationship for you are in survival mode. Because he or she is emotionally numb for minimizing the physical or mental abuse. The second reason a partner stays in the abusive relationship, for the victim has formed a trauma bond with his or her abuser. The trauma bond, the victim of the abusive relationship, consists of love, compassion, and also confusion. When you remain in the abusive relationship for a long period of time, you all's home becomes a battlefield in which leaves no room for recovery in the relationship. However, a loving relationship never comes with physical abuse, never comes with emotional abuse, sexual abuse. There's no financial abuse, no controlling partner. Your partner never manipulates you. Your partner won't utilize the blame shifting technique. You never feel as if you're walking on eggshells consistently. Your partner isn't always jealous, and he or she never gaslights you. During a loving relationship, your partner never will disrespect you. Therefore, your self-identity is restored. A loving partner will not interrupt every conversation with you, and he or she will listen attentively. A loving relationship always contains honesty and constant trust with your partner. Your partner is very committed and loyal to you during a loving relationship. An abusive relationship is not a partnership, and a loving relationship is a never-ending partnership. An abusive relationship is always a battlefield, and a loving relationship is a safe haven. I'm going to repeat that. An abusive relationship is always a battlefield. A loving relationship is a safe haven. So now I'm going to state this paragraph that describes a healthy, loving relationship by Leslie Vernick. I'm going to spell it because I could be pronouncing the last name wrong. Leslie, Vernick. A healthy adult relationship is one where both people in the relationship give and both receive. There is safe and open exchange of ideas, feelings, and thoughts, and all perspectives are considered and valued. There is also the freedom to respectfully challenge, confront, and strengthen one another. So again, I'm going to restate this paragraph from Leslie Vernick because it describes a healthy, loving relationship. A healthy adult relationship is where both people in the relationship give and both receive. There is a safe and open exchange of ideas, feelings, and thoughts, and all perspectives are considered and valued. There's also freedom to respectfully challenge and confront and strengthen one another. Again, that's by Leslie Vernick. This will be the final announcement about the merchandise store closing in a few more weeks. Because we are not selling many items to keep the merchandise store open. Please feel free to buy an item or items from our merchandise store before it closes. And also, donations help the podcast to grow and generate more fluently. I am very thankful for every listener and every supporter of my podcast. Have an amazing day.